People are not disturbed by things, but by the view which they take of them. That is Epictetus, a man born into slavery, yet he possessed a freedom that emperors envied. Look around you. We live in an age of constant outrage. A rude comment, a traffic jam, a rejected text message. These tiny sparks set our entire days on fire. But what if I told you that your anxiety, your anger, and your frustration are not caused by the world around you, but by a glitch in your own perception? There is a mental switch, a specific ancient technique that once flipped renders you bulletproof to the chaos of modern life. It's not about becoming a robot, it's about becoming untouchable. Today we are going to unlock the psychological fortress that the Stoics built 2,000 years ago. By the end of this video, you won't just understand it, you will possess the tool to walk through fire without getting burned. If you want to master your mind while others are losing theirs, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell right now. Let's dive in. Imagine for a moment you are the captain of a ship in the middle of a violent storm. The waves are crashing over the deck, the wind is tearing at the sails, and the crew is panicking. Most people believe that peace comes from stopping the storm. They spend their entire lives trying to control the wind, trying to control what people would think of them, trying to control the economy, trying to control the future. This is a trap. The Stoic secret begins with the dichotomy of control. Epictetus, the slave-turned-teacher, taught that there are only two categories in life: things up to us and things not up to us. It sounds simple, right? But you are likely getting it wrong every single day. You think your reputation is up to you. It's not. You can act with honor, but people can still lie about you. You think your wealth is up to you. It's not. The market can crash. When you tie your happiness to things you cannot control, you are essentially handing the keys to your emotional stability to strangers and random chance. Let me tell you a story about this. There was a Stoic philosopher named Agrippinus. During the reign of Nero, a time when people were executed on a whim, Agrippinus was informed that his trial was proceeding and he would likely be condemned. Most men would be pacing the floor, sweating, begging for mercy. Agrippinus looked at the messenger and asked, "Is the trial at this very moment?" The messenger said, "No, it is later." Agrippinus shrugged and said, "Very well, then I shall go exercise and take my lunch." This isn't arrogance. It is the ultimate realization that worrying about the verdict would not change the verdict. It would only ruin his lunch. When you fully internalize this, you stop bleeding energy. You build what Marcus Aurelius called the inner citadel. The world can scream, the economy can collapse, and your partner can leave. But your reasoned choice, your ability to choose how you respond, remains untouched. As the Stoics say, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. When you stop trying to command the waves, you can finally sail the ship. Now you might be thinking, okay, focus on what I control. But what about when disaster actually strikes? This brings us to the second layer of being unbothered, a technique that sounds counterintuitive: premeditatio malorum, or the premeditation of evils. Modern self-help gurus will tell you to think positive. They tell you to visualize your success, your mansion, your perfect life. The Stoics argued that this actually makes you weak. When you only visualize the best-case scenario, you are fragile. The moment reality hits you, a flat tire, a lost job, a breakup, you shatter because you weren't prepared. The Stoic secret is to look the monster in the eye before it arrives. Seneca, one of the wealthiest men in Rome who eventually faced exile and execution, practiced this daily. He said, "He robs present ills of their power who has perceived their coming beforehand." Here is how you apply it. Every morning before you start your day, imagine the things that could go wrong. Imagine your car not starting. Imagine your boss criticizing your work. Imagine the person you love acting coldly toward you. This isn't about being a pessimist. It is about removing the element of surprise. When the rude waiter messes up your order, you don't explode in rage because you already visualized it happening. You say to yourself, "Ah, I anticipated this." There is a story of a father whose son passed away. While the neighbors were weeping and tearing their clothes, the father stood calmly. When asked how he could be so cold, he replied, I never told myself that I had begotten an immortal. He loved his son deeply, but he had mentally prepared for the mortality of those he loved. This sounds dark, but it actually creates intense gratitude. When you visualize losing everything, you stop taking things for granted. You drink your coffee with more joy because you know it's not guaranteed. You hug your partner tighter. And when the bad things do happen, you are the only person in the room who remains calm because you have already lived through it in your mind. You are unbothered because you are prepared. Let's shift your perspective. Often we are bothered because we are too zoomed in. We look at our lives through a microscope. Someone cuts you off in traffic, and it feels like a personal attack. You didn't get the promotion, and it feels like the end of the world. Your ego makes you the main character of the universe. This is where the Stoics use a tool called the view from above. Marcus Aurelius was the emperor of Rome. He had absolute power, yet he dealt with plagues, constant warfare, and betrayal by his own generals. He could have been the most stressed man in history, but in his journal, Meditations, he constantly reminds himself to zoom out. He writes about looking at the earth from the stars. Imagine you are floating in space, looking down at Earth. From that distance, you can't see the borders of countries. You can't see who is rich or poor. You certainly can't see the guy who stole your parking spot. You see the rise and fall of empires as if they were ant colonies. You see that your life is a blink of an eye in the timeline of the universe. There is a profound story about the astronaut Edgar Mitchell. As he looked at Earth from the moon, he experienced a shift in consciousness known as the overview effect. He said, "You develop an instant global consciousness, an intense dissatisfaction with the state of the world, and a compulsion to do something about it." But he also felt a profound peace. His personal problems vanished. When you are overwhelmed, close your eyes and zoom out. See yourself in your room, then your city, then your country, then the planet. Realize that people have been living, loving, suffering, and dying for thousands of years. Your current problem, no matter how painful, has been felt by millions before you. This doesn't mean your feelings don't matter. It means they don't have to consume you. It creates a detachment. You realize, as Marcus Aurelius said, Alexander the Great and his mule driver both died, and the same thing happened to both. When you see the smallness of your drama, you become unbothered by the petty details. We need to talk about the mechanism of anger. Why do you actually get mad? You think it's because of what happened, but the Stoics discovered a psychological truth that modern cognitive behavioral therapy confirms. It is not the event that upsets you, but your judgment of the event. Imagine you are walking down the street and someone bumps into you hard. You instantly feel a surge of rage. "Watch where you're going, idiot," you think. But then you turn around and see that the person is blind and holding a white cane. In a split second, your anger vanishes and is replaced by compassion. What changed? The event remained exactly the same. You were bumped, but your judgment of the event changed from "he disrespected me" to "it was an accident." This proves that the anger was never caused by the bump. It was caused by the story you told yourself. The Stoic secret is to catch yourself in that gap between the stimulus and the response. Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist who survived the Nazi concentration camps, used this Stoic principle to survive the impossible. He said, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." To become unbothered, you must strip away the adjectives. Stop saying, "This is a terrible traffic jam." Just say, "There are many cars on the road." Stop saying, "He insulted me." Just say, "He made a sound with his mouth." When you strip away the judgment, you strip away the emotional weight. You look at reality objectively. You become a scientist of your own life, observing data rather than a victim reacting to drama. This is the ultimate power move. While others are slaves to their initial reactions, you pause, you analyze, and you choose peace. Most people today are soft. We live in climate-controlled boxes. We order food with a tap on a screen, and we panic if the Wi-Fi is slow. We are addicted to comfort. And because we are addicted to comfort, we are terrified of discomfort. This fear makes us easy to bother. The Stoics believe that to be truly free, you must periodically practice voluntary discomfort. Seneca advised his friends to set aside certain days where they would content themselves with the scantiest and cheapest food and rough dress, saying to themselves, "Is this the condition that I feared?" Let's look at Cato the Younger, perhaps the most hardcore Stoic who ever lived. He was a wealthy politician, but he would often walk through Rome barefoot in the heat and the rain. He wore tunics that were out of fashion to invite ridicule. Why? He wasn't a masochist. He was training. He was teaching himself to be ashamed only of things that were truly shameful, like bad character, and to be unbothered by the opinions of others. He was callousing his mind just as a weightlifter calluses their hands. If you want to be unbothered, you must test yourself. Take a cold shower. Fast for 24 hours. Sleep on the floor for a night. Leave your phone in the other room for a whole day. When you voluntarily do the hard things, the involuntary hard things lose their sting. If you lose your job, you won't panic because you know you can survive on beans and rice. If someone mocks your clothes, you won't care because you've already practiced looking foolish. By inoculating yourself against hardship, you gain a swagger that comfortable people don't have. You walk through the world knowing that you can handle whatever is thrown at you. As the Stoic Musonius Rufus said, "We will train both soul and body when we accustom ourselves to cold, heat, thirst, hunger, scarcity of food, hardness of bed, abstaining from pleasures, and enduring pains." We are now reaching the deepest levels of Stoic mastery. Most people merely tolerate what happens to them. The Stoic doesn't just tolerate it, they love it. This is the concept of Amor fati, a love of fate. It is easy to love life when things are going your way, but can you love it when you are fired? Can you love it when you get sick? The Stoic mindset is that everything that happens is fuel. Imagine a blazing fire. If you throw a log into it, the fire consumes it. If you throw a chair into it, the fire consumes it. The fire doesn't care what you feed it. It turns everything into flame and brightness. You must be that fire. The greatest example of this is Thomas Edison. In 1914, his massive laboratory complex caught fire. It was filled with prototypes, records, and expensive equipment. It was his life's work. Edison was 67 years old. He rushed to the scene, and as he watched the chemical-fueled flames turn green and yellow, he didn't cry. He told his son, "Go get your mother and all her friends. They'll never see a fire like this again." The next day, walking through the ashes of millions of dollars of loss, he said, "There is great value in disaster. All our mistakes are burned up. Thank God we can start anew." 3 weeks later, he launched the phonograph. That is Amor fati. It is the refusal to be a victim. When something bad happens, you don't say, "Why me?" You say, "Good, this is an opportunity." An opportunity to practice patience, an opportunity to pivot, an opportunity to start over smarter. When you love whatever happens, you are impossible to defeat. You become unbothered because the very things that are supposed to hurt you are actually helping you. Nietzsche, who admired the Stoics, wrote, "My formula for greatness in a human being is amor fati, that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity." We arrive at the final, and perhaps most potent, secret. The ultimate reason you are bothered by traffic, by rude emails, by not having the latest iPhone, is that you think you have forever. You live as if you are immortal. You squander your time on petty grievances because you deny the reality of death. The Stoic cure is memento mori. Remember that you must die. This isn't meant to be morbid or depressing. It is meant to be clarifying. In ancient Rome, when a victorious general returned from battle in a massive parade, a slave would stand behind him in the chariot, holding a crown over his head, whispering, "Respice poste, hominem te esse memento, memento mori," which translates to, "Look behind you, remember you are a man, remember you will die." Why would they do that at the moment of greatest triumph? To keep the general grounded, to remind him that this glory is fleeting. Think about the last thing you got angry about. Maybe your spouse left the dishes in the sink. Now imagine you found out you had 1 week to live. Would you care about the dishes? Absolutely not. You would only care about connecting with them, loving them, and soaking up every moment. The dishes didn't change. Your perspective on time did. When you carry the awareness of death in your pocket, life becomes high definition. You don't have time to be bothered by nonsense. You don't have time to hold grudges. You don't have time to worry about what people think. You are too busy living. So the next time you feel the stress rising, the next time you feel the anger bubbling up because life isn't going your way, pause. Ask yourself, is this essential? If this was my last day on earth, would this matter? Marcus Aurelius left us with this final instruction. You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. Use these secrets. Build your inner citadel. Visualize the storms. Zoom out to the stars. Love your fate and remember that your time is short. Do this and you will not just be unbothered, you will be invincible. If this video sparked a fire in your mind, don't let it die out. Subscribe to the channel for more wisdom that stands the test of time. And comment below. Which of these Stoic habits will you start using today? I'll see you in the next one.